Okay, we're going to start our meeting. Welcome. This is the town meeting of October 2nd, 2023. And just a little bit about the meeting. So last time we had a town meeting, we mentioned that we're going to keep doing these meetings in hybrid form. Most of the towns around us don't do that, but because we have this room, we can be set up for it. It makes sense to keep doing it this way. However, we did make a change in the last meeting that you have to be here in person to vote. So if you're online and you want to vote on something, you have to come here and vote here in person, but you can at least ask questions and you can watch the meeting if you're online, and we're going to continue doing that. Tonight I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman. We also have Selectman Brett Mastriani, Selectwoman Nicole Porter, town clerk, and Antoinette Pancaro, admin and director of finance, Christine Dias, our registrars, Emily Lewis and Connie Barati. Happy birthday, Connie Barati. Thank you for working on your birthday. Appreciate it. And also giving a presentation in a little while will be two foreman and assistant foreman of the highway department, which is Donnie Hill and Alan Ladd. Usually the guys with the orange shirts, but Alan's not dressed tonight for this. So in a town meeting, as you know, or most of you know, you've been to town meetings, one of the first things we do is I get to have you vote for a moderator, and then I get to sit back down, which is great. So I'd like now to open up a nominations for a moderator for this meeting. Do I see any nominations? Any nominations? There's a nomination for Sean Murphy. Do I hear a second? Second. Any other nominations? And nomination Bill Ricker. Any seconds? Any seconds for Bill Ricker? Second, and Mary Ann. Okay, Sean Murphy would like to yield. So we have one nominee. It's Bill Ricker. I'd like to have it here, motion to close nominations. Thank you, Ann. Second. Anybody second? Closing nominations. Thank you, Nick. Okay, nominations are now closed. All those in favor of Bill Ricker moderating this meeting this evening, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Ricker, you can take over the meeting. And thank you, Sean.
So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:40, Monday, October 2nd. There are 4 calls this evening. Let me establish some basic rules of order for this town meeting, most of which are recommended by the state to the moderators, those of which who have taken some moderator training. I will ask the principals on each call to give a 5-minute summary explanation of that call. Any citizen wishing to ask a question or voice an opinion shall give their name, address, and be given 2 minutes to either ask questions or state their position. A second round of questioning will be available to any citizen after all other members have had their first opportunity. You may not be a resident of the town to vote tonight, but you will need to have a $1,000 property taxed in this town. As was mentioned already, those folks on Zoom are not able to vote. Should any discussion pass 20 minutes, I will ask for a call of the question. That will then be voted upon without discussion before a vote. Voting shall be in a yay or nay basis. If that is inconclusive, there will be a show of hands, and I'll ask for 2 people to be the counters of those hands. If that's somehow inconclusive, we will have either a dividing of the room or paper ballots. That's the process of having votes taken. This is a legal statement that needs to be read at each meeting. Any person not legally qualified to vote or votes more than once is subject to a fine and imprisonment of not less than 1 year nor more than 2 years, and shall be disenfranchised. The wording from the state. Voting by an assumed name or another name shall be guilty of a Class D felony. Are there any questions to the rules that I've established for this evening? Hearing none. I'm in my past moderating, being elected as a moderator. I've reminded the audience that we are all neighbors and mostly friends, and will obviously have differences of opinion on different subjects. You are simply asked to be civil and polite in your discussions. May I ask the town clerk for the call of the first question?
Warning is hereby given to the electors and those entitled to vote at town meetings of the town of North Stonington that a special town meeting shall be held at the following location on the date and time indicated for the purposes of transacting the business set forth below. Location, North Stonington Education Center Media Center, 298 Norwich Wesley Road. Date, October 2nd, 2023. Time, 6:30 p.m. Only those attending the meeting in person will be able to vote. The meeting will be available for comment and viewing through Zoom at the link given in the call of the meeting, but those attending virtually will not be able to vote. All supporting documentation will be available on the town website, www.northstoningtonct.gov, and the Zoom link for viewing and public comment only was given in the call of the meeting. Question number 1. Shall the town approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $59,816 to LoSiP funds for transfer station compactor upgrades as recommended by the Board of Finance?
Do I hear a motion to accept? Do I hear a second? John Murphy, second. Discussion, please.
Bill, if you'd like to hear more, Christine Dias, Director of Finance, can explain what that is exactly.
So we are looking for, the $59,816. Some of that is unspent funds from last fiscal year. And some of it is additional funds that were, included in the governor's budget that were not included in the town budget when it was presented and approved by, the voters. So we have a short presentation by Alan Ladd to talk about this, and it talks about the funds for both question 1 and question 2.
Alan, would you like to come up to the mic?
So as everybody, or some people may know from using the transfer station, that's a welcome sign, of course, as you pull in. As we haul our trash right now, there's 2 walking floors with 2 trucks we use. One trailer is a 2002 and the other one is a 2010. One of the trucks we use, the green one on the right, is a 1987 Mack, and the one on the left is the 1998 Mack. One of the trailers is in pretty rough shape. That's why we're here tonight. So as we do, that's for the garbage side. For the recycling side, right now, we rent a compactor unit with 2 containers, from Casella. They just, actually, Casella just bought out Willimantic Waste. So we pay $216 a month for the compactor rental. That's not the containers. And then we used to be $190 fee twice a week, roughly, to take the containers away. Now it has gone up to, as of July 1st, to $425 per container. It's usually twice a week. Sometimes it can be more around the holidays and everything like that. So approximately it should cost about $46,792 for the year to do that. We fill, like I said, 2 containers a week. This is the above view that you guys see on the right, and on the left is what it is underneath. The blue container is what gets hauled. Underneath, looks like that wall is where the compactor sits, and that's the funnel that goes down into it to get compact. This is what you guys see on all the way on the left. As you guys toss your garbage down in the container, the truck in the middle, of course, what it looks like from down below as you're exiting. If you look back, you would see that. The excavator we use to pack the garbage in, so we can try to get as much as we can in those trailers because it is expensive to get rid of it. So right now we have not a contract, but a deal with Cal Mary. They haul all of our metals out of town, and we get a very small portion back. And Yarrington's is right around the corner from the transfer station. So we're hoping when we do get the upgrade of the new truck, we could haul our own scrap and get 100% back rather than just a portion of it. In July, we got back $633.20. The Yarrington estimated on that same tonnage that we hauled there, we should get $1,041 back for that month. That's what they told us we could get back if we hauled it there. So the proposed plan was containers at $22,445. That's two 30-yard open top containers for the scrap metal, like the two you saw in the picture, $7,110 each. That was one 40-yard open top for like the bulky garbage that won't fit in the compactor. So say like a big plastic slide or anything like that, it's not going to fit in the container to get crushed in, to get packed. So that would go in the open top. Or carpets, say you stripped a house of all the carpets. If they're cut too long, they won't fit in the hopper and it won't get packed. So it'd have to go in that. I don't see a whole lot of that coming in. And if we did, I would have talked to everybody up at the transfer station that works up there. They said if we only had one and it sat there for a month, they would just cut it in half and make sure it fits in and just get rid of it. There's no sense in running the container for one little carpet. So the compacting containers are $91,503. That's one 34-yard compacting container with the power unit that runs it. And then a second container, we wouldn't need a second compacting unit because we only need one. They unplug and plug in. It's really easy. You just move the container in underneath the funnel, plug up the two hydraulic hoses, and it's good to go. And that's a 3-yard container. Right now, we actually run a 4-yard container for the recyclables. This is a little bit different style, but it's made for garbage. It contains the liquids and everything else. When you get to the incinerator, then you drain your liquids as well as everything else is packed in the container. With that, we would also get a 3-yarder for recycling and two 40-yard containers. The same exact setup we have now, like I said, except for 1 yard smaller compactor, which isn't a big deal. We'll just have to hit the button a couple more times. Then we would do everything ourselves, the garbage and the recycling. The truck to run those containers is $250,000 for a 10-wheeler roll-off truck, and the installation costs for the garbage side to set the rails in and run power over to run it is about $25,000. So a total of $388,948. The potential revenue we could get back. With going off last auction prices of last year, because when I started looking into this, for the walk-in floors, the old box van we don't use anymore, it sits out back, and the two trucks we figured roughly be about $60,000 with the age and the mileage on them and the use. The new vehicle would use 8 less tires that travels down the road and 2 less axles every time it moves. The excavator would be a huge savings, less fuel in that, wear and tear on hours on the motor, the pistons, the bucket, everything, every part of it. The smaller truck would definitely save a lot of time in the incinerator. Sometimes you can get stuck there for 2 or 3 hours because you're a big truck and there's 10 more big trucks with you. And what they'll do is they'll back in a couple of big ones, push a couple of little ones in between, and make sure everybody can dump in and get out quick. With the little ones, sometimes it's all little trucks in there. Depends on who comes the time you're there. Usually the little trucks get in and out a lot faster, which is convenient. This whole plan the money doesn't, like we had put aside money for a new walking floor trailer. That was only one of 2. So then in another year or 2, we've had to buy another walking floor trailer at the same, I think that was $108,000, Christine. So that was only one of the 2. So $108,679 from the LOSUP would be allowable expenses included to install the permanent fixtures. So that would be the containers considered permanent fixtures because they get attached to units that are bolted to the ground or hooked to them, so they wouldn't move. That's considered, it can't get used anywhere else because the power unit would be at the transfer station. So for LOSIP for the state, it's a fixed unit. The capital funds of the C205 was $81,286.50. And the bottle fund proceeds would go towards that as well, 10,000. Hopefully we get that soon. Hopefully it's close to that. The additional appropriation would be the 190,000 from the undesignated fund to get the truck. Because the truck cannot come from LOSIP because it drives. It's not bolted to the fixture, bolted to anything because it moves and we can use it other places. It has to come from an undesignated fund or another piece. So the town meeting is very crucial about timing. The truck is a minimum of 6 months out, could be more. I talked to the dealer, actually last Friday, he stopped down to see me. Right now, everything's sitting at 6 months. I know, good thing we're not buying a Mack because they just went on, they're not at work right now. We're looking at a Freightliner, which is good. So, that's still on track. We do have to get the money as soon as possible because I did talk to the body company as well. They will lock us into the funds before it goes up again. So it just, time is very, very crucial on this one. The LOSA plan must be submitted to state prior to beginning of project. New funds not available until March 1st. That would be for the containers and that stuff. We have to get the truck, like I said, first. And the truck and the trailers we use now can't get sold until all this is all set up in the transfer station. So hopefully early fiscal year 25 or 24, 25, so we can get going. So the summary of this, the expenses are the containers at $22,445. The compacting containers, the 22,000 would be the open top ones. The compacting containers is $91,503. The truck at $250,000. The installation of the wiring and the rail system underneath is $25,000 for a total of $388,948. The funding sources was LOSIP for $108,679. The capital funds, C205, $81,286. The bottle bill money of $10,000. The additional appropriation was $190,000 to meet $389,965. And then the future savings would be the sale of the equipment of $60,000 and then the annual budget saving of $46,000. And then, excuse me, as of using this in 3 years, we would have saved and returned back the money. As well as using this truck at the transfer station, it's also can be used for anything around town, really. We use a lot of dumpsters for the school to haul out a lot of stuff when they clean up. We can use it for trees, for big storms, anything like that. It's actually very handy to have. The other thing was with the scrap metal, there's a return on that monthly because we would get a bigger percentage back with bring it to Yarrington's at, I think I looked at it as like a little bit like 3 miles away. So we get a bigger return on that.
Questions or comments from either the floor or the selectmen? Yes. Can you come up to the mic, please? Because the audience at home needs to also hear you.
Rome Oaks at Winter Chalk Hill. You said at 10. Good try out. We got the river, any weights at all? We got the drop back. Oh, with, so you don't drop.
So that was just a straight 10-wheeler. For the weight we haul, we're actually under on everything on a 10-wheeler.
Jerome Oaks, 167.
So with the weights we'd run with that truck, we would be under. It was like 25,000, I think they said, to put the drop axle on.
I'd say, but if for that much money being in construction, I'd rather have that safety net, like to never have to worry about anything. Yeah, I mean,
So bulky waste would be the only time you have to worry about it. And we should have quite a few years with that. This is also just a setup for then when we do bulky waste, we already have the truck. We just have to get a couple containers that say 6,000-7,000 a piece, rather than another trailer for another 108,000. As of right now.
Yeah.
It could be 10 years, it could be 5 years. It depends on the state.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jerome. Other questions?
Nick Mullane, the $10,000 for bottles, is that a one-time receipt or a,
So because of the bill that was passed, we get an allocation 2 times a year, for every 6 months for the amount of nips that are sold to the distributors in the town of North Stonington. So we get that twice a year. The range of them has been about 7,500 to about 10,000. We've allocated the October amount, but we will have another one coming in April as well.
how did you measure the income from the metal? How did you get to an estimate of what you're gonna,
How'd you estimate the income from the metal?
So every month we get a receipt back from Calamari's saying how much tonnage they paid us for what we had. Alan compared those compared to what Yarrington would give us for that same load. And that's how he did it.
question? The price received from the Yarrington or Calamaris depends upon how clean it is. What is going to be thrown in and hauled, is it going to be reviewed or kind of put on the ground first before you put it into the container?
No, that'll remain the same. And again, that's based on what the residents throw into containers. You can tell them all day long to put aluminum in aluminum, but they don't follow the rules. So you get what's called a mixed metal load,
Okay,
which is a lower rate than we get if it was completely all aluminum. Sometimes it's based on the amount of metal being in there versus aluminum. And they give us a lower rate for the mixed metals than they would if we just had clean metals in there.
okay.
But they don't give us the higher rate when there's copper or brass in there, which is a higher rate metal. They just still give us the regular steel rate.
What has been considered in regard to additional maintenance on this equipment versus the way you're operating now? Is there any difference, more or less, or what?
Actually, there would be less.
Okay.
These just 2 weeks ago, one of the walking floor trailers had a spring on the left side that absolutely disintegrated, was rotted so bad. Fortunately, Willie wasn't going down the road with it. He had pulled into the transfer station, and the part of the springs, had fallen out on the ground. So we had to take it to the shop, and we put all new springs all the way around it because it rotted that bad. So since they're rotted and worn so bad, the maintenance will be basically none for the first 5 years. All of this thing, it'd be mostly the wear and tear would be on the up and downs versus the truck rotting out. And the containers on this thing are easier and cheaper to replace than a walking floor trailer.
Okay,
So real quick, Alan came up with this idea. It's Alan's baby, and I've let him run with it since he came up with it. I'm not taking any credit for it. It's a great idea. It's going to save the town a lot of money. It's going to save the town money as far as the wear and tear on the maintenance. And one of the things that Alan forgot to mention was the bulky waste pile. We all know it's the thorn in the side. That's coming, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get here sometime in the future. This truck already in place, you're going to not have to go out and now figure out a way to haul your own, have somebody come in and haul your bulky waste because they'll be able to do it with this truck. So that was just another key thing that, would help you out in the future. It's a win-win. I'm telling you, it's the best thing that, I wish I would have came up with it, but I didn't.
Are there any questions from Zoom? None. Yes.
Carolyn Howell, Providence and London Turnpike, 495. I just have a question. Have you guys considered like undercoating any new trucks that you purchased? I mean, I know like with all the stuff they're putting on the roads now to treat for fall, it's really good number on everybody's vehicle. I didn't know if that was.
So we use a product through Rolmar. It's a, product that we undercoat the trucks, which will start here in October. The trucks are undercoated every year with its stuff, the film from Romar, which protects the chains and the other stuff. However, it's not a catch-all. You can't get every single spot on there, and it doesn't. It stays on there as long as your winter months happen. After your winter months, and the trucks are washed after every storm too. You'll see the guys in the shop washing the trucks after every storm, so they try to keep that off there. But we did switch to a different product from Romar Industries, and it seems to be working a lot better than the other stuff. The other stuff was a vegetable-based stuff, and it only stayed on there for 6 weeks. This stuff stays on there longer.
So for new vehicles,
Yes, Alan's truck's got it. The new truck that I have's got it. So something we started doing.
Everything usually gets coated with it after we do a good pressure wash, re-grease. It's the new stuff. It sticks a lot better to the frame. One of the plow trucks we did last October looks like we did it yesterday. And there's a little bit of sand stuck to it, but it's not underneath it. It's on top of it, which is definitely a good thing.
Other questions from the floor? Hearing none. Who? Nick, didn't see your hand.
Or is it just part of the excess?
So we have $34,763 unspent from last fiscal year. We had budgeted $48,881 in the budget that was approved, but there was an additional $25,053 that was included in the governor's budget.
Good deal.
Sir, come up, please.
Hi, I'm Aaron, Warren, 100A Jeremy Hill Road. So no increases in any town costs because we already have the money, right? He said we're gonna save money in the future. How are we saving money in the future?
So we're not going to be spending the money that we're spending right now with Casella for them to haul the recycling out,
How much is that?
about $46,000 a year.
So how many years do you think that these trucks are gonna save $46,000 a year?
Yeah, so the trucks will remain on the road as long as they possibly can. If we keep going the way we're going, the hauling of the recycling and not hauling it ourselves, we're gonna make money on, now we're also gonna make money on the metals that we haul out of there. You're also gonna have a truck there that you're gonna need in several years down the road to haul your bulky waste out. Bulky waste right now is $117 a ton to haul out. You guys are very fortunate you don't have to pay that right now, but that is coming.
So what I hear is that it's $46,000 a year in savings, but there's going to be increased costs in the future due to bulky waste. We ought to be able to see that all tallied up so that over time, because if it's $46,000 a year, we get 5 years out of the truck, that's 200 grand in savings. But then if bulky waste comes in year 2 or 3, it's going to cost so many tons. We can take historical tonnage and calculate what the future cost for bulky waste is going to be to the town, right?
Right, but we don't foresee the bulky waste closing in the next 8 to 10 years at least.
Yeah, we haven't done a survey on
So 10 years without the bulky waste increase of cost. So that's really not a player in this conversation.
plus the increase on the metals. We're gonna go from,
$1,000 a month, not really a player. 46,000 a year is a lot. $1,000 a month was the cost to the town from Yarrington on average cost for metals, that's 12 grand a year.
Plus the
That's
reduction.
12 plus 46 is $58,000 a year. Over 5 years is 250K back to the town in savings.
Plus,
That's a win. All right.
plus the reduction on the taking the old trucks off the road and maintenance. Okay.
So Aaron, I just want to mention too
Yeah.
about the hauling. So Casella now is double what it was last year. And they're just going to keep going up. So each year it's $46,000 of savings a year now. It could be more than that next year and the year after.
Any other questions, please? Any other comments?
I did forget to add in on that. That 425 is per container that leaves. So there's usually 2 a week. Like I said, unless there's a big holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, there's always more recycling. Same thing with garbage. There's always more of it. The other thing was they've started adding, I want to say last January, they add a fuel charge in, but they call it an energy charge. And I don't remember what the last one was. I'd have to look back, but I want to say it was around $190 for the month on top of the 425 and the rental fee of 216. So they've gone up and they do it on percentages with the fuel. I haven't figured out what the percentage is because it changes monthly, which is kind of strange.
I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of call number 1, signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. May I have a call for question number 2?
Number 2, shall the town approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $190,000 to purchase a truck and containers for transfer station compactor upgrades as recommended by the Board of Finance?
Do I hear a motion to accept? Mr. Mullane, seconded. Charlie Smith. Discussion, please. Is there comments first from the town?
Just say, Bill, this is actually a follow-up to the first question because part of that presentation was the 190 was in that presentation. So it's a follow-up to that.
Okay. Does that mean there is no need for discussion or vote?
Oh,
think,
no, we still have to have a vote, but, and there's always can have discussion. So in case somebody missed something in the first part of it.
Mr. Mullane?
The system we have now, but that system also was modified as we went along. And this new proposal may not last forever because the types of operations and demands and the rules and regulations change as you go along. So we'll use this as long as we can, but then it may require some modifications, additions, or changes as the rules and regulations change.
Thank you, Nick. Are there other comments? Is there anything on Zoom? No one is asking questions or no one is on Zoom. Then I'll stop asking. I'll call for a vote then. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Question number 2 passes. I ask the town clerk to read number 3.
Number 3, shall the town of North Stonington empower the first selectman to enter into a contract with the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection for the services of 2 resident troopers for a term of 2 years, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025.
Motion to accept. Nick Mullane, seconded. Your name again, please. Okay. Discussion from the town.
Well, just to clarify, if you were reading the Westerly Sun, it looked like we're adding a second trooper, which we're not. We've had a second trooper. This is basically allowing the first selectman to sign a contract, which happens every 2 years. The last contract was up, we're renewing it for the next 2 years. So we do have two full-time troopers on now. And it's just it's part of the contract, but we are not adding one as it said in the paper.
Any questions from the floor?
Ryan Rathman, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. I just wanted to know, I got here late, I couldn't read all the contract stuff. But I didn't know if this is something that the state drew up, or have the selectmen been able to have a really good look at this contract? I'm leery of voting for any contract unless I really look at it.
Yeah, I understand. So it's not any different than the last 2 years. They pretty much just standard. We actually decreased our fringe cost a bit over the last 2 years. But it's a combination of those contracts, that contract and state trooper overtime is what we pay to have the 2 resident troopers. As we know, back years ago, before I was here, we had constables. And then to do a full-time fire police department would be very expensive for the town. So this is kind of the in-between solution. Now, there's a town like Volantown that has no troopers, but they have to use Troop E. So if something happens in Volantown, they've got to call a troop and they got to find out who might be in the area. We have 2 troopers. So as far as the contract goes, I can't tell you about all the legalese in it. We have our attorney look at it. Christine's looked at it, the director of finance, and I'm comfortable with signing it, but if you'd like to read it, you could, but I think we need to, it was supposed to be approved a while back. Was it last month or July 1st? And we haven't.
Yeah, it makes me nervous simply because I've called the police a few times, and most of the time they say, oh, we'll send one right down. They come from Colchester. So I don't even know if we need any troopers.
Okay, so our 2
Especially
troopers
too, are we
work.
getting Retired troopers too, the ones that are retired that just.
No, Jason's 50 and the new gentleman, Alex, is only about 28 years old. So we're not getting retirees. And I will say this about the troopers. They are pretty much, they report to my office almost every day. If there's anything going on, they hear any stuff that's going on at the school, they're parked at the school to make sure that all the kids get off the bus safe, get back on safe. There's a lot of exposure. I think the one thing I hear the most is that we don't have enough police presence when it comes to speeding and breaking traffic laws. But there's only 2 of them and they're not on at the same time. And they each work 40 hours a week, but that leaves a lot of hours that they don't work that were covered by a Troop B. And that's when we have to call the barracks.
So both of them troopers on at the same time, or?
No, they're not. Nope. Jason typically works 7:30 to 2:30 and Alex works, I think it's 2:30 to 10:30, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Why don't you sit here?
Aaron Warren, I'm at 100A Jeremy Hill Road. So I have, there's 8,000 some hours in the year, right? We have 2 troopers that are full-time at 80 hours a week, which is half the year covered. I'm opposed to speed limit cameras. I'm opposed to traffic violations altogether. It's just a tax on the poor people. I like the troopers doing their job for us to keep our kids safe and the town safe. That's my personal opinion. I just want to share that with the public. Thank you.
Nick Mullane.
This is one subject I'm not happy with. The state police at one time had approximately 1,200 troopers. And they had a very simple chain of command. Since then, they have changed, state of command, such as you used to have a colonel that was the commissioner. Then what they did was they hired a commissioner also, and then they started making, I think there used to be one lieutenant colonel. Now it's scheduled for 3. And the amount of captains and majors has gone up also. And my point is that we now have maybe a little over 850 total troopers, but you have a lot lost in the chain of command. They used to price a resident trooper by straight hours. Then they started saying, okay, in addition to that, we're going to put all the overhead on it also. So where we used to have 3 troopers at less cost than we're now paying for 2. And the problem is the state of Connecticut is not properly staffed with road troopers. They've lost a lot of troopers that are in the administrative, and they don't go out on the highway. So the amount of troopers that should be on in southeastern Connecticut should be greater than the 1,200, because the amount of area we have, and then add 2 casinos, you end up with a lot less people available. And they were supposed to, way back when, promise that there would be an overlapping trooper. There used to be an overlapping trooper for Preston and North Stonington because the casino. And they have a problem. The only way they can fill that is overtime, and that's not a good way to do it.
Thank you, Nick. Forgive me if it looks improper, but to keep 2 minutes to everybody, I want to be fair to everybody. Are there any other comments? If there are none, Nick, do you wish to respond again? Any comments from the selectmen? Seeing no other hands, I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of the 3rd call, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. May I ask for a call to the 4th and last item?
Number 4, to hear and act upon the following resolution. Resolved, that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized and empowered to obtain loans at current interest rates for loans to municipalities in anticipation of the receipt of tax collections and in anticipation of the receipt of federal and/or state grants with respect to a project or program on such terms and conditions as follows. A, the amount borrowed shall not exceed $1 million at any one time. And B, the Board of Finance shall receive as early as possible prior notification of any borrowing. The Board of Selectmen is further authorized and empowered to execute any and all documents necessary and required.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept? Charlie Smith, seconded, please. Sean Murphy. I saw his hand, Ann. Comments from the selectmen.
Okay, so just a quick story on this question. This question comes every year, and I was watching the town meeting from June 27, 2022 earlier today, because I knew this question was on there. And I wanted to see what the questions and answers were a year ago. And when Mr. Mullane was the first selectman, this question was asked, and when Mr. Murphy was the first selectman, this question was asked, and so on. And now we're the selectmen. It's it's almost like an insurance policy question. I have a black jacket that hangs in my office that says North Stonington First Selectman. And the EMD had that made for the previous first selectman. And I said to him, I hope I never have to wear that jacket. Because if I'm wearing a jacket that says North Stonington First Selectman, something bad must have happened. Plus, I like to float under the radar a bit, so you don't need to know who I am. And I just get in the way if I'm at an emergency. But so this is kind of like that. If something happens where we've got to drain down our undesignated fund, something drastic like in 2010 when we lost a bridge, and we have to use funds to get something fixed in town because it has to be fixed right away. And we don't have enough money to pay our bills that have already been approved in the budget by the taxpayer. It gives the selectmen a chance to go and get some funding up to $1 million without going through the 2 months of red tape they would have to take going through the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and a town meeting and a referendum and so on. So it empowers the selectmen the ability to do this. Like that black jacket in my office, this has never been used as far as I know. And we've got two past, Sean and Nick are both here. So between the two of them, it's 32 years as first selectman. And it's never been used, correct, Mr. Mullane or Mr. Murphy? But it's there, just in case you need it, correct? Yes, okay. Nick, you agree? Okay, so that's where we are. And I watched that meeting on the 27th, and this took and I'm not trying, we can ask as many questions as you want, but I just figured I'd get some of that out ahead of time, because that were the questions that were asked back in last summer.
Any other comments from the floor? Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy, 23 Kingswood. I just wanted to add a note to clarify this. This authorizes the selectmen to borrow $1 million. It does not authorize them to spend an additional $1 million above and beyond the budget. Say if we had another bridge go out in front of Town Hall again, we would be back to a town meeting to have funding or to have that project approved. This does not allow you to exceed your budget, but it's really meant to cover your budget if the state doesn't provide the funding that they do on a normal basis, and if taxes are held up for some reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Other comments, please? Nick Mullane. Other comments from the floor? Any comments from the selectmen? Anybody want to inherit the black jacket? No. May I hear your voting? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Hearing no other comments and having no other calls, I determine this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.